necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KWAM.
Welcome to the Variety Hour on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
Listen to you move your mouth. I bet you come from way down south. Now don't tell me, let me guess, you from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good. Talk Memphis, high on the bluff. I swear I can't get enough. Listening to you talk that stuff. Talk Memphis, oh yeah, talk Memphis.
This is the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I am your host, Dean Harris. I'm with CrestCore Realty over on beautiful Summer Avenue. Thank you guys for tuning in today. You might be listening on AM 990 Memphis, FM 107.9, or you guys could be streaming the show at www.kwam990.com. The Memphis Real Estate Hour concentrates on investing in Memphis real estate. We'll focus on all the related topics. We'll also discuss local and national investment trends as we'll give you an inside look as what it takes to become an investor here in Memphis or what it takes to become a bigger and better investor here in Memphis. I remind you guys every single show that I'm an investor myself. So if you have that old home that you need to sell quickly, or if you know somebody that has that old home they need to sell quickly, just shoot me an email, dean@crestcore.com. I'll be happy to get you a response, get you probably a cash offer today on that. I've said this many times, I don't care what kind of shape it's in, what the condition is, or where it's located. Just give me a quick email, and I'll be happy to give you a valuation or, an actual offer on it today. I'm going to have, 3 good investments of the week today. Got a couple of higher-end rental properties. We've talked about those several times on the show, but I've got a couple of good ones, one in Bartlett, one in southeast Shelby County, and then I've got another just solid rental over in 38111. So stay tuned for that at the bottom of the hour. We always get to that right around that time. Guys, if you're tuning in on Facebook Live, we welcome you. It's a very good tool that we've been using here over the last almost year. So go to the show's Facebook page, The Memphis Real Estate Hour. You can see all the previous shows that we've put on there, including last week's show where Dan and I discussed why investors might be selling property. That it's not always a bad thing. We give you several reasons on why they could be selling. So I get that question a lot from investors: is why is this seller getting rid of this property? Is it a dump? Is it something that's losing money? And that's not always the case. So be sure to go check that out. The show's Facebook page, The Memphis Real Estate Hour. Click under the video link, and there's 55 or so of the previous shows that are on there. Today's show, I have got Wendy Greenlaw with Chandler Reports here in the studio. We're going to talk about 2018 Q3 numbers. We're going to expand a little bit, put her on the hot seat, so to speak, and make her tell us some things she doesn't want to tell us. So I'm kidding. We're going to really dive into Q3 and figure out kind of what's going on in our market. She's got a thumb on that, and we are always thankful that she is willing to come in and share that information with us. And then in the second segment, Dan Butler is here in studio again today, and we're going to be talking about 15-year versus 30-year mortgage terms when it comes to your investment property. So there's advantages and disadvantages to doing those two different ways. So we'll dive into that. But let's get right into it. Wendy, welcome.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Wendy Greenlaw's with Chandler Reports. If you haven't gone onto their website, it's chandlerreports.com. And what I have learned over the last 2.5 years that you and I have connected is that this information is extremely valuable. It is really a telling sign of not only just our residential real estate market that a lot of people focus on, and that's the main attraction, but in Memphis, the last few quarters, we've been about 50-50 on investment deals and residential deals. So tell us what you got. What happened in Q3 of this year? What
Q3.
Yeah.
The market kind of shifted in Q3. And I'm not going to say, it fell, but the number of units sold was down 6%. compared to Q3 of last year. And that's the first major decline we've seen in units sold, number of units sold.
And that's with everything, investments and regular residential, just
Everything for
sold.
sale by owner, any residential property sale, condo, single family, whatnot. And then average prices, I feel, are kind of stabilizing a little bit. They were only at 4% from last year. So that's the first, I'm not going to say a major decline in number of units sold, but I'm thinking that the housing inventory is starting to have an effect on, obviously, pricing, and then obviously the number of sales that we have. And as we go into, the last quarter of the year when things really slow down, it'll be interesting to see how we end up at the end of the year. And we can talk more about that.
You think we're plateauing from a price standpoint?
I see that we are starting to level out a little bit. Those new home sales prices, they kept getting higher and higher. Well, they were virtually unchanged from the Q3 of this year to last year. So that kind of tells us that maybe things are starting to stabilize a little bit. And then through the first 9 months of this year, if we're looking at the overall year to date, home sales in the county, number of units are just down 1%, so just down slightly, and those average prices are still up 7%.
Okay.
So I think that we're going to hit another record high this year at the end of the year as far as average home sale prices go. We hit one in Q3. This was the highest. We hit almost 180 for the
Average
under
home
80,000.
sales price.
Yeah. So that was another record high for a Q3 that we've had. New home permits were also way down in Q3, 22%.
Why? That shocks me because of the demand for housing.
The demand for housing is there, but I don't think there's anywhere left for people to build. I'm hearing people are trying to go out to the municipalities and kind of not begging for land, but kind of coming up with their own development plans and saying, we need to open up some lots and land in this area. Home sales are down in these different pockets. But
so if you're a landowner, you're in good shape.
Well, yeah, you could be in excellent shape. And then we're seeing a lot of more mixed use type projects coming about. But yeah, that'll be interesting to going into next year to see what's going to happen with new home sales. So of the home sales that we're recording Q3, we're predicting over 35% were investor purchases. Okay, so when we look at the numbers, it's down slightly. Still at roughly 50% of those were out of town buyers. 1% of those reside outside the U.S., which is pretty on average. Top zip codes with investor purchases, the usual suspects. We had Fraser, Westwood, Raleigh, University, and Oak Haven Parkway Village, which is 38118.
So when you say Westwood, you're
38109. Yeah.
That's become a hot area.
That was number 2.
It's funny how it's moved.
Can you maybe this is an after show question, but I wonder if you can break down if the most of the activity has been west or east of Highway 61 or 3rd.
That I would have to research.
You'd have to look at,
yeah. But I have a list of zip codes that are performing well this year, and that's one of them as far as the number of units sold and average prices. So we can talk more about that in the next segment as well.
Okay.
Top investor buyers, again, usual suspects, REI Nation, Mid-South Home Buyers, and Memphis Investment Rental Properties. And then top sellers, REI Nation, Mid-South Home Buyers, and Memphis Investment Properties. And one major shift, we mentioned it in Q2, and I saw it again in Q3, was the lack of hedge fund activity. So I think I saw about 2 sales in Q3. I saw 0 in Q2. And another interesting fun fact is I'm now seeing hedge funds selling. Okay. So on the top seller report, number 6 is Sabaris. Okay. Which is CSMA if you're looking at the owner
How many
name.
do they sell?
27.
27.
In Q3, which is not a lot, but it's a sign that something's shifting.
That's exactly
And when I went to review them, they were selling them to other investors.
And this is, if I remember correctly, this was a concern of yours from a standpoint of quality of neighborhood and keeping the neighborhood up. I think if I remember correctly,
There's a concern there, but the other concern is when they start selling from Wall Street, does that mean we've reached the peak in our market? Are they predicting something there? Is that a sign of, hey, we've hit the high, let's start selling off some and then keep it,
Maybe.
Or maybe they're just, why are they not buying? The 6 months of no activity is kind of what is glaring to me as, oh, they're putting a hold up. Why? And now why are they starting to sell off?
Well, that's what's going back to that interest rate question. Interest rates are going up, cost of money's going up. I think the sales is probably coming. They have so many analysts that they're constantly looking at, like, quote unquote, selling their dogs. I mean, they're not going to stick with something that's not making them money.
Right. But this is the first time we've ever seen them on that list.
At all? Like at all to sell anything.
Right. Well, at that level where they're selling enough to get on the top seller report.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just something to keep an eye on. But yeah, and then the other thing is, from the inventory standpoint, my concern is all these hedge funds and investors, again, own so much, doesn't go back to retail market with a realtor. So
no,
does that keep our inventory low? And inventory has been going up. I don't want to say that we don't have enough. I mean, I don't think we do have enough, but it's still historically low. But, if you go back through the Board of Realtors reports, it's been going up, about 200 homes on average since January. So it is creeping up. But I'll be curious to see in the last quarter of the year, days on market, how long they're out there. I've looked at homes in my neighborhood that are for sale. I think they're way overpriced. I went out and looked at about 20 properties this weekend. I felt they were all overpriced. I'm starting to see people dropping price. So I think people are having a tough time right now because we're in an unprecedented market as far as pricing. I think they're having trouble pricing properties.
Everybody's going for the gold.
Well, then that's what homeowners are doing too. I'm sure they're pushing them into and saying, I could get $250 for this one. No, you could probably get $210.
I tell you what, I've seen some of that.
Well, we have a neighbor that started at, $480, and every week they're just dropping it.
Right.
They got to go because they've already got to the next house.
Right.
They thought they were going to get a quick,
sale at a high
quick sale at a
price
high
and make a
price,
lot.
and then it happened because somebody's just saying, no, the market, I'm not going to pay more than what we feel it's worth. And
But that's hurting them because those people that would have bought at the lower price point have now found something else.
That's
so
right.
that's why I'm curious to see days on market as we go forward, and as I review those that are on the market, just to see how many keep decreasing.
It's funny you said that because we learned that they had somebody that was a backup, and by the time they went to the backup, no, they're going to the next one.
Right.
And so
that stinks.
they keep swindling themselves down. They're going to miss the boat, right?
And from my perspective as a home buyer, like when I see that it's way over, it just turns me off to the whole thing. I don't know why, but I'll just go find something that's more reasonable. And some of them are not way overpriced, but I'm finding a lot are just way overpriced.
Are the agents being educated on this?
I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's an agent issue or the homeowner. If you talk, you're in real estate, you talk to homeowners, they think they can get, X amount, and they're going to push you to do that, even if the numbers don't come back at that. And I'm not getting that many calls. In Q2, I got a ton of calls from agents saying, I can't get an appraisal value on this property. I've got someone who will buy it at this price, but I can't get an appraisal.
I personally called you for one.
Right, but I had a lot of realtors calling me, and I didn't really have any last quarter.
So see that is a strong indication of what's going on, because I had one over in Colonial Acres that didn't appraise.
Right.
It was when I was flipping, and it was really low, like 14,000 low. Now they adjusted,
right,
and we were able to
work out something. Yeah.
But I mean, like the initial thought of the appraiser was 14.5 lower than the sales price. Now I think he just made a mistake because they had initially moved it back up 10 more thousand, but it was still 4,500 lower than the sales price.
Wow.
In a hot area.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I mean, Colonial Acres is hot, but yeah, that's good. All right, what else you got?
So we have 8 zip codes year to date that are having, I would say they're performing well. They have over 10% or higher increase in number of units sold, and they have high average sale price increases. So I can go through those quickly.
Sure.
It's 38106, 38107, 38109, which is Westwood we just discussed, 38112, 38126, which is such a small zip code, it doesn't really matter, but it's a high investor market. Fraser, 38127, and then 38139 out in Germantown.
And repeat, and all of these are
They all have major increase in units and high increase in average price. So that to me would say it's performing well for this year. There's other strong areas like Midtown and University area, but they're not,
Those numbers are a little jaded because the schools are there.
Yeah.
The pricing is a little higher. The rent's a little higher.
Right.
Man. All right. So those zip codes those zip codes you mentioned to me are zip codes that I typically don't take investors to.
Right. Well, 38109 you would, right?
I do there, but 126 and 106 I typically don't.
And 127 you don't do Fraser?
Yeah,
that
we'll
much?
do. Yeah, Fraser will do, but
Yeah.
the 126 and 106 is.
Fraser prices are up 16% year to date. It's pretty high.
Well, last show it was like 10%.
Yeah, so it's almost hit 40 on average for the year.
Wow.
It's definitely moving up.
And that's because, like I mentioned before, those investors are paying well above market value, and they're paying cash. They're not getting a loan, and they're overpaying for properties.
Where do you see any kind of move, and you might not have this info, but in rental figures, is the rent numbers moving up or down?
I receive a rental report every week, and it's stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think they said that Memphis has pretty much always been pretty even keel.
That's what attracts investors here. Is
Right, but if you look at like the West Coast and stuff, like people out there are having to reduce their rents to be competitive, where we don't have that kind of issue here in Memphis.
So that's a strong point, for if you're an investor listening out there, depending on where you're buying and what you're buying, it hasn't really mattered. Our rent is staying the same. It's something I've preached from what you've told me. I mean, Dan, you've been buying since 2000. and you haven't seen,
Major
huge-
fluctuations in price. Or rental
$25.
rates.
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's it. I mean, it goes up at like the 2008 to 11, we might have reduced 25, maybe $50 in a couple of spots, but
Right.
nothing.
Nothing.
You're not
That's
having to do anything
significant.
drastic to attract a
No.
tenant.
On the like 38127, do you have data that shows investor versus homeowner? And on an average,
Yes.
like what is an average homeowner
I think
paying?
it's like an average homeowner's paying probably 25 to 30. I would
25,
say.
30, and then
yeah.
investors pay an average of 40 plus.
Yeah. I mean, some investors are paying $70,000 for
$70,000.
homes in there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and they're not bad properties. They've been renovated.
Oh,
They
they've
look
been-
great.
yep.
They've probably got tenants in their paying. It's just from an investor standpoint, they're not getting the return on investment. It's someone who's paying more in line with the market.
And this is an age old, for years we've been talking about this, but I think what happens when they want to sell? Will another investor buy it at that 60 or 70?
Probably. I mean,
Yeah. And that's why I think the homeowner equation is so critical in that, I think, because if another investor won't buy it, what will a homeowner? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, but
somebody
I
that's gonna
think
live
they'll
in
be
the
able to
neighborhood.
find an investor to buy it.
you think so?
I do.
Yeah.
Unless the market really, really tanks and goes,
I'm selling
South.
investment houses over and over again.
yeah.
I mean, like, you know what I mean? From
Sure.
one investor to another
Right.
to another. I have several. I've
You're
sold
part of
3
the problem,
times.
Dean.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he's part of the.
Yeah, that's right.
You're really crushing our
But,
inventory.
but that right, yeah, such a major impact.
Yeah.
I wonder. Frazier's been one of those markets where we've just sat here and just watched balloon from a price standpoint. I mean, I remember when 5 or 6 years ago when I first started doing investment stuff, it was you get some 15 and 20 grand out there. That
Yeah.
was fairly livable. You might have to do some stuff to it, but those houses are going for 40 now.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're telling us.
What's funny is, I always, I don't like to use absolutes, but I would never buy in 38106. And now people are buying, you're showing data that
Yeah.
people are moving to 106. There's stuff.
That's
You
what
sold
I'm-
a couple.
I've
They
sold
have a
a couple.
23% increase year over.
It's
That's
because that's where the houses are.
Yeah.
Everything else is, a huge portion of 38128 and 127 and all that's been rehabbed and there's not much
Right.
churn yet.
Mm-hmm.
Now when the market crashes, something crazy is going to happen and then people are going to offload.
Are they our big buyers that are buying there? Like our Memphis Cash Flow and all these other guys that are the bigger buyers,
I'd have to look at the figures.
and see
Yeah.
who's buying there.
Mhm.
That would be
I don't think the hedge funds aren't buying there.
the hedge funds are not.
course,
But
they
I
I
haven't
would
been
say no,
buying,
they're not
so-
buying anything.
Right, that's right.
yeah,
Wendy
clearly
said they're shut down.
that scares you too. I can tell in her face.
I
That
know,
makes
she's
her
like-
nervous.
I know she's all nervous. Like, what does that mean?
It means
That's
I
right.
need to sell my house now.
That-
Sell
right.
it today.
Do you have time to stay for another segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and keep talking to Wendy Greenlaw with Chandler Reports at chandlerreports.com. We're talking about the 2018 Q3 numbers. You guys stick around. You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on 107.9 The Voice.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Now, here's your Mid-South weather forecast from the News Channel 3 Severe Weather Center and Todd Demers, right here on KWAM The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
More clouds, more showers for today. Also much cooler. Temperatures back in the mid-50s only. Northerly winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Scattered showers continue off and on today and into tonight. Low temperatures back in the mid-upper 40s. Partly cloudy. Rain ends on Wednesday. Highs returning to the mid-60s. The Racket Club is proud to introduce a new wellness program, Live Well. Wellness is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. For more information, call the Racket Club today at 765-4444. With a look at your latest WREG TV News Channel 3 Severe Weather Center forecast, I'm meteorologist Austin Onick on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions license and is approved to close transactions for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8 and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
CBS Money Watch.
Paul Allen, who co-founded Microsoft with Bill Gates, died yesterday from complications of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was 65. Gates said in a statement that, quote, personal computing would not have existed without him. Sears will be able to keep its department stores open through the holiday season after a bankruptcy judge approved $300 million in financing. Sears filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection yesterday. Plans to close about 140 of its 700 Kmart and Sears stores by the end of the year. And that's your CBS Money Watch report. For more, head to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Diane King Hall.
To experience relief from muscle cramps and soreness, use TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam is proven to prevent and relieve foot and leg cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today in the pain relief aisle at Walmart, CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens pharmacies, or TheraWorks.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back. It is now time for your investments of the week. It's free money, Dan.
Had to do that, didn't
you? All right, let's go through these. Get your pens out. Get your crayons out. Let's go through these real quick. I've got some good ones. 4,000 block of Cloudburst Cove, 38141. That's southeast Shelby County. Got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. It's occupied at $880. Seller's asking $77,900. This one's in good shape, good condition. The tenant just re-signed their lease, so it doesn't expire till 8/26 of 19. So you've got a good cash flowing property here for another solid year. So I would check this one out. 4,000 block of Cloudburst Cove, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's in 38141 zip code, occupied for $880. Seller's asking $77,900. Number 2. This is a little bit higher end property in Bartlett. Bartlett is extremely desirable. We're getting ready to talk about a little Bartlett statistics here with Wendy. But 6538 Baybrook Lane. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. It's occupied at $1,100. I'm sorry, it's vacant at $1,100. Well, it can't be at $1,100. It's vacant, and the rent is $1,100. So market rent's $1,100. This one is vacant, but the seller's asking $1,099. I believe this has just been rehabbed too, so this should be in some really, really, really good condition. 6538 Baybrook Lane, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 38134. That's Bartlett. $1,099. The seller's asking. This is $1,100 rental. Number 3 here, 38111 zip code, Inez, 746 Inez Street. 3-bedroom, 2-bath property as well. Got some good 3-bedroom, 2-baths today. This is a $750 rental. It's vacant, but it's a $750 rental. Seller's asking $49,900, and this is in 38111 zip code. So these 3 good properties today. A higher end rental, $1,100. I got an occupied one for $880, and then we've got another $750 rental in 38111. It's a good little bungalow house here on Inez Street. So you guys go to the show's website or the brokerage's website, CrestCoreRealty.com. That's www.CrestCoreRealty.com. We post all of our brokerage listings, and we also have the investments of the week on there as well. So you guys tune in to that. All right, Wendy, welcome back. We've talking with Wendy Greenlaw of Chandler Reports at chandlerreports.com today. We've been talking about Q3 of 2018, where we stand and what's going on. So, yeah, from a stabilizing standpoint, and from the hedge funds, and I know you're fact driven.
Right.
So I know you. I know you don't want to go off on two
opinions.
Yeah.
I'll make predictions.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like I know I don't want to put you in bad spots, but what do you? Well, right. What do you see in the 2019 as far as investors, hedge funds, our overall market? Like, is there, because I know y'all have sat around at Chandler and the daily, Memphis Daily News, and you guys are just
sipping coffee.
We just sit around and talk about this all day.
Eating.
Get our crystal ball out.
Yeah. And you guys rub it, and it's all of a sudden a genie pops out of it and it tells you. But for real, what do you guys look at from 2019? Because we're going to snap our fingers and it's going to be December. And
I know. Why can't we just talk about the rest of this year?
Yeah, well, because you pretty much
we've
told
moved
us.
on.
Yeah, I'm already planning.
You already know?
19.
Yes, I have been.
All right.
Yeah, I have been. So I'm trying to figure out, like, are we going to enter 2009? Because our goals we talk about our goals all the time, and they're doing nothing but getting higher and larger and more expectations from everybody.
And do you have your risk in there with an economic downturn or financial crisis or anything? Do you have
that's what we're waiting on you.
Oh, I'm predicting that now. Oh,
you are literally going to determine how we run our company.
Yeah, okay,
right.
great. Great. I'll send you a bill for this later. And if I'm right, I want a little commission.
A little more.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out, like, are we going to come into a brick wall here in 2019, or is this? I don't think we are from a investment standpoint because of our cash flow and because of our. To me, I don't think that's. I think it can dip, but I don't.
I think we're going to continue to see a slowdown, so to speak, as far as the number and volume of home sales.
Is that from hedge funds that are staying out? You think that's what affects it the most?
I think it's the retail market's going to affect it the most, as far as. I think so many people are getting priced out of the market right now, and I don't see a slowdown in the pricing, to be honest. I mean, I think we might start to level off, but I still think that it's going to be higher than average or normal of what we've seen in the past.
Do you see any businesses closing, like any of the investment property
management companies or stuff?
Yeah, sellers or retail agents, like with inventory going down, I would think that, you know what I mean?
Like brokerage firms?
Brokerage firms, real estate agents.
No.
Everybody's figuring it out.
Yeah, and I go out to a lot of offices and speak and train and stuff, and they're all having record years. So I don't see that happening.
Are they prepping for Are they prepping for something
like
different?
they did back in 2007?
Yeah, right. I was in that, man. I'm telling you, that was.
I think everyone's trying to be realistic. I think everyone's excited that we're seeing this, type of revenue numbers coming in, but I think everyone is a little cautious. More so because of what happened, 10 years ago.
I just get nervous when I see when I see interest rates start to creep up. That is a.
What are we at? I don't even know. Are we still under
It's just under 5 for a 30-year. Yeah, I just looked at that this weekend.
That's moving up, though.
No, I know. And like I said, you've got the higher prices. And if you do have interest rates going up, you're getting people out of this market. I mean, they just aren't going to be able to buy, and they'll be able to rent, and investors will have plenty of people to rent to.
Well, and I also think that rising rate is going to take investors that are on mortgages. They've got a large number of homes that might they start selling. They might have to.
But don't they have a lower rate?
Investor loans? No.
Oh, I don't even know what they're at.
Investor loans are higher rate.
Depends on what they locked in. If it's Fannie Mae or,
If it's a 30-year fix, then they're fine. But, I mean, if they're on one of those 3-year balloons.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have to get out.
They'll have to get out.
Or foreclose or.
Well, that's what myself and a whole wolf pack of investors are sitting here not really waiting on. But I know I've got some investors that are buying now. But I know for a fact that there's some other guys sitting back in the cut waiting on.
Another foreclosure crisis. I think if we have another foreclosure issue in the city, it's going to be investors. I don't think it's going to be homeowners, right? Like standard
which
owner occupied.
Is good. I know that sounds weird to hear.
I think it's awful, but
I know you do, and
But why do you think it's awful?
If investors are foreclosing on their properties, even though they have the money to pay for them and sustain them, because sometimes they leave them vacant,
I see what you're saying.
and then sometimes they don't properly take care of it. It'll sit there for months until the bank finally takes it back, and then there's no one living. It deteriorates your neighborhood, and then the values go down again.
Well, then we'll buy them and fix them up.
Then
again.
we'll buy them and fix them up. That's what.
Right, you buy them at a lower rate. And then right, yeah. So we're
started over.
Start over.
It's a vicious cycle, but
I'm not sure. Yeah,
it makes me angry. It makes me angry when I see investors. When an investor like forecloses on 30 properties, yet they're still making a lot of money in our community and they're still doing really well. That kind of upsets me. Yeah.
That's somebody behind a desk in a big city making a decision from here. That's right. Well, because they have they have. No,
but I made my money like just
it reminds me of a story back in 08, 09, like where we were just trying to hammer it out because it was a rough time, you know, when paying our notes like we're supposed to, and we'd hear guys that to your point, they were filing bankruptcy.
Right.
Same type of stuff we had, filing bankruptcy, getting the judge to lower the value and lower the payment to the banks just because they were in distress. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I get it.
That's working the system.
That's working the system. Yeah. And over here, we're all, you know, paying our notes and just trying to keep
doing the right thing.
Trying to do the right thing, just paying like you're supposed to.
And knowing it's going to turn around and you'll be able to get out of it.
Long term, you'll be fine. But
right.
So I get what you're saying. I think that's, you know.
We saw a lot of investors walk away from properties.
Back then,
in 2008, 2009.
The good thing is, I will say from a banking standpoint, there's not many banks that allow an investor just to own houses without professional management.
Right.
That's a shift.
Not now, for sure.
There's banks that we deal with that want us to be preferred provider for management because they know if they loan to you and they say, well, you can only use a preferred bank, and they only have one preferred property manager, and we're one of those. They know if you foreclose or you let the house go, at least the rents are still coming. We can secure the house. You know what I mean? Like there's action that can be taken versus 10 years ago, people would just throw up their hands and they vanished.
Well, or people would still be living there. The bank's coming knocking on the door to kick them out. They're like, "What do you mean? I'm being evicted.
Right.
What do you mean the house foreclosed?" I just had someone in Nashville call me about that. His son got evicted.
So the positive spin for our investors on this, is if that happens, the tenants aren't going anywhere. We've talked about that.
There's just more opportunity for them to get into the market at a lower rate.
For another investor to come in and buy that and get it occupied. It is sad. I hear what you're saying because, I mean, if you get into that community, then there's plenty of them in Cordova and Arlington, and there's areas where, you know, if there's 100 houses in the community, 40 of them are rental properties.
Right.
And if they're all probably owned by two companies, if one of those companies decides to file that bankruptcy for that certain... That's why
I don't see a hedge fund doing. I really don't see a hedge fund doing.
No,
something
but I see
them
selling off.
I see them selling off, which they are selling off to other investors. I don't think they're going to have a problem selling off in this market. Do you?
No.
But like, if something tanks or something happens,
if
we may have an issue.
$110,000 house in Arlington or Cordova, or they bought it for 120, 130, and they want to get rid of it today for 90, I can get rid of it in 10 minutes.
Right.
Because the rents are so high, $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 rentals. I mean, I could literally. There's people listening right now that if they knew they could get a $1,300 rental for $90,000, $100,000, they'd buy it today.
Right.
So I don't think, and to your concern, I think that new investor would come in and maintain and try to keep up that area. Now, where I do get nervous is where some of these guys are building new construction communities only for rentals.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now that could be a problem.
I don't like that.
I think I think it's a terrible idea to buy in those because for that very reason, you got everyone that lives in that whole neighborhood has no ownership.
Right, but
no pride of ownership.
But people want to own new homes, so why wouldn't they just sell them off to people that want to buy a new home?
Well, because the condition of them might not be as a
renter.
They've been there for 3 years.
Yeah, but they're paying a higher rate, so.
I can resell it to an investor. It'll be really tough to get those investment properties over to a retail buyer because they're going to come in there and they're going to see the
condition
knocked up and banged up from kids. You know, it's just But another investor will scoop it up. So that's what I'm concerned. Like the one streets and the one communities that are all investment that they're built for rent.
You'll think they'll fold?
Those will fold, I think, before the other communities that are mixed with homeowners and mixed with others. That's why I've never advised a client to go into one of those communities. No, not when it's all that.
Think about, and this is a duplex, so keep that in mind. But like Eastport, Wingate, all those off of Chuck. Mm-hmm. Like when somebody just built rows and rows of duplex. Anytime you think about just duplexes all on one street.
It's terrible.
It's not a good move.
3118 has plenty of it.
But I have a ton of duplexes I own, like where it's houses, couple duplexes,
right?
And then
They're scattered.
They're scattered, they're surrounded by people that
There's stability around them.
stability, people that care. They're going to call me when that tenant leaves an abandoned car. You know, like
Right.
we're going to hold people accountable more versus a whole street. Does that make sense? So if you do that with the whole community, you know, with new construction, it's going to be okay for a while. It's just over time that's going to it's starting to get better. But Northwood Hills up there off of Egypt 128 Egypt Central. Do you know where that is?
I don't.
It's new construction. And back,
You know everything about this city, but if I
don't know where
ask you
anything is.
where it's at,
Where
you
it's
got
at.
Don't
no
ask me
idea.
where
Don't
it is.
ask you.
Just tell me the zip code.
We're going to have to get a map out and just put it up here for you.
Stick it up here for
But
Wendy.
it was new construction, but it tanked back in the 08 and 10. So we bought a lot of houses back
Yes,
in there.
I do. I know the area you're speaking. I don't know
Yeah.
where it is. I can't
Water
drive there right
Oaks,
now. But yes.
Rural Run, those streets like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so we bought a lot of houses, but we went through a rough period in that subdivision because it turned into all rentals.
Right.
Versus all the homeowners had to flee. Does that make sense? And the builders were leaving.
They're gone.
Well, they were filing
houses-
bankruptcy.
yeah,
And
they
were
were filing
getting out
bankruptcy,
And,
so
right. Couldn't sustain it.
There's houses that were halfway done, and so that would created kids that were setting fires. I mean, shooting. I mean, it was crazy for
We
a
had
while.
we had a banker friend that said, "Man, once a week I get a guy come in here and brings me a Ziploc bag full of keys and just drops them off."
Wow. Because that many people were walking away.
In 2008, 9, yeah.
Yeah.
They're done. They just couldn't afford the payments. Here.
Gotta go.
Here
Yeah.
it goes.
Right.
I'm out.
That's sad.
funny.
Well, Wendy Greenlaw, I appreciate you coming in here
Yeah,
today.
thank you.
This is always helpful information. It really gives our investors a clue of what's going on here, not just with the residential, with investment market, but with residential, which can influence one or the other. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Guys, you go to chandlerreports.com and you can get all this information at your fingertips, and we really appreciate Wendy coming on. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we're going to take a real quick break. Come back. Dan and I are going to touch on real quick before we go 15-year versus 30-year loans for these investment properties. You guys stay tuned. Listen to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on AM 990 Memphis.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Now, here's your Mid-South weather forecast from the News Channel 3 Severe Weather Center and Todd Demers, right here on KWAM The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
More clouds, more showers for today. Also much cooler. Temperatures back in the mid-50s only. Northerly winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Scattered showers continue off and on today and into tonight. Low temperatures back in the mid to upper 40s. Partly cloudy. Rain ends on Wednesday. Highs returning to the mid-60s. The Racquet Club is proud to introduce a new wellness program, Live Well. Wellness is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. For more information, call the Racquet Club today at 765-4444. With a look at your latest WREG TV News Channel 3 Severe Weather Center forecast, I'm meteorologist Austin Onick on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions, and is approved to close transactions for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8 and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back. Man, I really, really dig her information that she comes in here with.
Good stuff.
It is. It's
Get you thinking all day.
It gets you thinking all day long, and it really sheds a light on. Like, I know she's got a lot of retail knowledge and deals, and that's kind of mainly what she deals with. But that's still an indicator of what's going on with us and our investors. I mean, I was happy to hear that at least we're holding steady with the amount of the transactions are down a little bit. But if you take the hedge funds out of it, I mean, that's 40 or 50 deals a month.
Yeah,
if they've frozen, and I didn't mention this earlier, but it could be. I mean, the hedge funds have frozen before, and it's usually a cash raise.
Yeah,
they usually go through those like, hey, we got fundraising type things.
We're going to a real estate conference this weekend. It'd be good to catch up with those guys. There's an economist coming.
Yeah.
So hopefully next week,
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now, we can talk through some of that data that I'm going to get this weekend. But because it's just, I believe in just keeping your head down and keep going.
That's me too.
You know what I mean? Like no matter what the interest rate, what's the market, all that stuff.
Adjust your business, adjust everything.
I mean, when you first came back to CrestCore, we were focused on helping buyers, which we still do.
Yeah.
But we've just turned really into listing specialists because that's what the market's dictating us to do.
That's right.
So we zig and zag, to match what's going on. So I think that's what our investors have to do.
Absolutely. And I tell them all the time, we turn into a chameleon. I mean, whatever. I tell them that we turn into a chameleon for them, but I mean, really, we do the same process in the market. If the market's dictating us to be a listing agent or specialist, then that's what we'll do because the buyers are all coming in. When they start to, thin out a little bit, well, all of a sudden now we've got that more dedicated time we can give to them. So yeah, love having her on. You guys go check her out one more time, ChandlerReports.com. All right, let's talk for the last few minutes here. Well, I don't think we're going to be able to cover all of this, but let's just give a quick debate on the 30-year versus 15-year term. When you're thinking about this, Dan, what do there's some, I mean, I can name the obvious advantages. You pay it off in half the time, but what are some of the I guess reasons or
why do one versus the other?
Why do one versus the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this day and time, the last 10 years, most people that we interact with are doing 30-year notes. Bigger Pockets talks a lot about 30-year notes.
Because of the cash flow.
The cash flow, you can reinvest your cash flow to improve your property or buy more property. You have higher interest expense, so your taxes are lower, which I don't really like that one as a.
It's not that big of a savings.
No, you can pay more for a property, which I think that's I struggle with that one.
Because that's
you can talk yourself into that's a sales pitch. Like, oh wow, I can
afford this.
I can afford this because I can put on a 30-year note and be okay. And
that's advice coming from the seller.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
That's advice coming from a seller that, hey, that 30-year loan or note is going to be way cheaper. You can afford an extra $5,000.
Yeah, and I think that people try to argue, for lack of a better word, I don't mean argue, but that your cash flow and your appreciation increases your return over the long term. Because you're putting that money back to work. But
I know what you prefer.
Yeah. I mean, and then you go back. So then let's talk about 15-year note because I know we only got a few minutes. And, I think for me, 15-year note that's the right amount of time, that or less, that you need to be in the lifetime of an asset to be paying a note. I mean, I just think that you get more than that. It's just a ton of life.
Think about year 23. How many roofs have you put on?
Oh, yeah, you're on
You know
second,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And you're still paying for the home.
Right.
Like, I don't mind putting that third roof on, but if it's been paid off for 10 years.
And you've gone through 10, 12 tenants in 23 years, maybe more, depending on what kind of asset you bought. I mean, you're tired.
You're tired, and I'm also, the average, I'd love to know this, but the average age of our investor I know is not 25. So a 30-year note, I mean, at some point, see, to me, and I think you agree, that the end game in this is to pay the home off. is to have that asset that's paid off. If you need, if later in life you have an emergency and you got 10 homes paid off, there's some liquid cash there. Or if you just are looking for the cash flow coming in, I mean, that's retirement for you. 30 years. I mean, golly, if you're 50, you're not seeing the end of that.
The problem that we always talk. I mean, we've Douglas and I specifically have had tons of debate about, because portfolio lenders want to come to us and just take all of our stuff, put on one note, and put it on a 30-year note and all that stuff. And it's like, oh wow, we'd have all this cash flow and all that stuff. What we find is you end up spending it on something.
Exactly right.
It goes away some way somehow because your mind relaxes itself. And you end up, being more lax with a tenant or putting more capital in a house that you know what I mean? Like
it adjusts your whole business strategy and plan.
Versus you're on a 15, your belt is like cinched.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you're cinched tight. You got to watch every penny. You're on a high alert. You know what I mean? Not from just not like stress to the max or anything like that, but just you're watching it. You're watching that store
for sure.
And I have not seen a 30-year where that extra cash flow that actually shows back up in the bank account.
Right. You spend it on something.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about when you have a 30-year note. Yeah, some people have free and clear houses. This is a different story, but we're just talking about 30-year versus 15-year. And I've just, for me, I've always tried to calculate things on a 15-year, and if it breaks even, then I'm okay with that purchase.
Right.
I put on a 15-year note, but one thing that's different than us is we always try to do is little as possible money down. No money down is as much as possible.
So
which is a hard feat.
It's a hard
feat. Much harder this go around these last several years than it was back in 07 to 12. That was like an easy task. Or even before. I'm sorry, before, because banks were just giving money like it was candy.
Yep.
Oh, no docs, no worries.
God, the days of that are gone. Thank goodness, though.
I mean, as a practical person, I always wondered why. I was like, that just makes no sense.
I just got started into real estate. I'd only been in it 2 or 3 years. I remember Countrywide Home Loans.
Oh, yeah.
And the rep would come in and
say,
they
exist?
Not anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Right. So it's amazing that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac still exist for backing up all those loans, but Countrywide doesn't. But yeah, so they would come in, and I remember 535 credit score, stated income, and $500 earnest money, and you could get that back at closing.
Get it back?
Yeah.
Wow.
100% financing, stated income, and a 535 credit score could get you a loan to buy a $180,000 to $200,000 house. Can you believe that?
It's crazy.
We won't ever see. I know we're seeing some rate loosening now and going up a little bit, but I don't think we're going to ever see that type of buying program again. You'll see something that's a little looser, but a sister product. It's actually called something. If you've watched the movie that talks about the crash, I forget the name. At the very end of that movie, they name, the movie? The Big Short was the name of the movie. With the very end of it, they tell you that the government has renamed a program that's almost the same thing. They're just calling it something else. They're running this similar type loans, and it's not as popular,
right?
But it can go down that same path. So I personally, if going back to the 15-year and 30, I'm refinancing a few of mine now.
On a 15.
On a 15.
Yeah.
I'm not looking, and I'm 40, so I'm right in that middle age of people that are buying, and I'm not. I don't want to do 30. I'm not. I'm 70 years old. Hopefully you live that long, but I don't. How much can you enjoy after that? I want to get this thing done.
And you're break even at that point, right?
I am cash flowing very little.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I'm not looking at it from a pay me now standpoint. I'm looking at it from a pay me later standpoint.
Well, and I think that people get lost in. Now I'm talking about volume. One house, 2 houses, a different conversation. But if you have, call it 20 houses, and you're paying, call it, I'm just doing math. $400 a month payment. That's what, $8,000.
Yep.
Pretty quickly you're paying $4,000 a month in principal on a 15. All right. So times 12, that's $48,000 you've basically invested in a 401k.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly how I look at it.
What people get stuck with is like, man, I had to put. I've done this. Back early on, my wife could tell you. There's times where I'd write a $3,000 check to pay for property taxes.
Yeah.
Well, if I paid $3,000 in taxes, but I made $48,000 in equity, I'm still way ahead of most people that I'm going to come in contact with that are investing and doing different stuff. Does that make sense?
But me.
But we see people flip out,
lose their mind,
and want to sell.
Buy this? And I try to tell them, like, you don't understand what you're doing. It's, you're putting into this. It's almost a savings account. I mean, you're putting into this, you know, to pay this off. It's not necessarily. We talk about cash flow, and it is king here.
Yeah.
And there's two different ways to go about it. If you're a younger guy, you're 30, and you think, man, 30 years, I'll be 60. I can still. Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
My mom buys them. Well, she can't put them on 30-year notes.
That would be pretty funny.
Right? You know what I mean? Like,
she'd be what, 100?
Yeah, you go to the bank. No, she's like, oh my gosh.
Rewind that tape, 60, 90, sorry.
You better hope she ain't listening to this. No, I mean, but she's not putting them on that. She's not putting them, I mean, you know, she's paid cash for solar, but she's going to finance, but she's looking at a 5-year note.
Sure.
And that's really breaking even. That might be even losing a little. Yeah, you're investing $100 a month into this, but she's not. I've talked with her enough to where she's looking at it in those terms of, okay, I got to get this done. So it does depend on your age and your strategy of what to do. But I love the analogy of that you just stated there. On a 15-year note, you're about pushing, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I got to write a check for $3,000 for taxes. But if you don't look at the whole picture, you're stuck on writing $3,000 for taxes.
That's right.
You don't see that, 20 houses, I put $50,000 into this year. Okay, $3,000 in taxes.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And I think other piece that, we only got a couple more minutes, but for me, and it's a little bit of perception, but it's also reality as far as if you're on a 15-year note and you're paying that $400, just simple purposes, 5 years down the road, you've got, in that example, several $100,000 in equity.
That's exactly.
So what is that bank thinking when you go to the bank to do another deal or another project or something else? Who looks better, on quote unquote on paper?
You do the short
15,
term
because you got some equity, you got some, you can put cross collateralized, what they call it, where you could use that equity to be credit for another bigger deal, or you know what I mean? Like it gives you some choices.
Gives you choices. The 30-year keeps you into that program.
That's right.
There's no real flexibility in the 30-year loan. And
again, I think that it's a great debate. I love having this conversation. I think that's where, it's just it all boils down to personal preference and what you're trying to do long term.
That's right.
And you make the choice and run with it. I think, that's neither one of them's wrong.
Neither one of them's wrong, but I will tell you, depending on your age and your goal,
that's true,
of what is more right. I mean, if you're 60 and you want to put it on a 30-year because you just want the cash flow, then okay, I guess I hear what you're saying. If the end goal is not to be 90 and enjoying a paid-off house, but if you're 25 and 30 years old, which I'm talking with some new clients now that are 25 and they just got out of college and they're just wanting to get into it. My advice to them as a married couple, get your Fannie Mae, like get 10 apiece, 30-year mortgages and go. And then, okay, so now you have that program set, and then come in here, and if you want to get some on some 5 and 10 and 15-year notes, you can. I mean,
what's your average investor age, would you say right now?
45.
45. That's what I mean, it seems like it's professionals kind of over a little hump, got some equity.
I'm
built
hoping to
up.
get some of these younger folks in it, though.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thanks, Dan, for joining me today. I
you.
appreciate Wendy Greenlaw with Chandler Reports coming in today. You guys go to the show's Facebook page for I'm going to post it after we get out of here. It's the Memphis Real Estate Hour. You can also go to the website, www.CrestCoreRealty.com, for the investments of the week. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next week at 8 a.m.